Okay, so we have several members from our Tempe team here. Why don't we have you all introduce yourselves? Ellie, let's start with you since you're the brand new person.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Ellie Velosin. I am a senior civil engineer here in the traffic engineering department for the city.
Kathy?
Sure. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Hollow. I'm the city traffic engineer.
Greg?
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Bacon. I am a sergeant in the Traffic Bureau. I oversee our grants and our selective enforcement. So excited to present.
Great. And are one of you guys going to share screen? Ellie? Oh, and I guess I should mention we also have Lieutenant McManus. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, Lieutenant Martin McManus. I've been with the Tempe Police Department approximately 15 years, and I am lieutenant assigned to our Traffic Bureau. I just want to say thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you. I almost forgot you were there for a minute because you were tiny on my screen. Okay, turning it over to you, team in the conference room. Go for it, Ellie.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. We're happy to be here tonight, talk about Vision Zero and some of our initiatives that we have going on in association with this. So real quick, what is Vision Zero? As it says, it's a policy that's focused on achieving safety for all road users. And the key principles are that Vision Zero focuses on eliminating severe injury and fatal crashes. Traffic deaths and severe injuries are preventable. We know crashes will occur, but we know that severity can be reduced. And then the final is that safety is actually everybody's responsibility. So here's some numbers that we collected for the last six years, from January 2015 to June 2021. And in the city, there were 128 total fatalities as a result of crashes. 92 were people in vehicles, 28 were pedestrians, and 8 were cyclists. We have a Vision Zero action plan. Some of you may be familiar with. If not, it's on the city's website. The address is shown there. And it has a number of initiatives in it that Ellie's going to present. And just keep in mind that this program is actually a three-prong approach because it includes engineering, enforcement, and education. With that, I'll turn it over to Ellie.
Great. So as Kathy mentioned, our action plan has a number of initiatives that are laid out. And again, you can find this on the website if you're interested in looking into it more. We just wanted to kind of highlight here, I don't expect you to read all of these, it's too much. But those that are highlighted in blue or green are either completed or are kind of an ongoing process that has been initiated and there is no end date to that, so we'll continue to do it. Those in the pink color are in progress, so those are things that we've begun and that there will be an end date to eventually. And those highlighted in the yellow color are for future, so those are the things that are kind of our next steps. And just as a summary, 37 of those initiatives overall. Engineering is kind of the lead goal on 29 of them, enforcement on 5, and education on 5. We obviously, so this was adopted in 2019. Obviously, COVID put kind of a wrench in the gears, but nonetheless, we have 7 of those that have been completed, 15 ongoing and 4 in progress. We still have future action to take on 11 of those initiatives. So I'll hand it over to Greg to talk more about the policing.
So again, my name is Greg Bacon, and I'm representing the Traffic Bureau. Our Traffic Bureau has a mission statement, and that is to reduce collisions and enhance safety on our roadways through purposeful education and enforcement. So everything that we are doing right now within the Traffic Bureau has data to back it, or is a direct result of conversations with our communities and things like that, which leads me to why we're here today. So we've adopted through Chief Glover's initiative the 3 C's: community policing, community engagement, and that all equals a collaborative leadership. So we're here today to talk about Vision Zero, why your community is potentially impacted with Vision Zero, what that looks like, and how we can work together as a community, traffic engineering, and a police department in the city to achieve the common goal of 0 serious physical injuries and fatalities. So some of the things that we have at the police department, we receive funding through the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. And some of that funding goes towards enforcement, education, and various things. So what I want to talk about first is our bicycle and pedestrian program that we're currently in the progress putting out online, and that's a diversion program. And what that diversion program is for, it's for someone who potentially receives a citation as a pedestrian, a bicyclist, a non-vehicle user, and they'll attend a diversion class for a nominal fee. And the purpose behind that is we all come, well, most of us come from somewhere other than Arizona, where do you ride with the flow of traffic? Do you ride against the flow of traffic? Do you, when you're riding your bike, do green lights matter? Do you have to go with pedestrian crosswalk signals? So there's a lot of different things in our community and in our state that are different from other places throughout the country. So the bicycle diversion program provides some education to people utilizing the roadways outside of vehicles, and therefore can help reduce some of these collisions when the collision involves a bicyclist or a pedestrian who's at fault, maybe just didn't understand or know the law. So I want to highlight some of the things that we have done. We have attended and are going to continue to attend some of the homeless outreach programs. We handed out some pedestrian and bicycle lights, as well as some flyers that talk about safety on the roadways, whether you're a bicyclist or pedestrian. And so we're going to continue to do that quarterly. As it pertains to our Governor's Office of Highway Safety grants, we have the one for bicycle pedestrian that we've been able to utilize some funding to get some of these programs up and running. We have an occupant protection, which is your seatbelt grant. Now with that, any enforcement or education that involves occupant protection or seatbelts, those are not primary stops in Arizona. So what that means is if you're driving down the street and you're not wearing your seatbelt, an officer simply cannot pull you over because you're not wearing your seatbelt. There has to be another violation for that in order for the seatbelt violation to be applicable. So we do have the grant that talks about occupant protection, which also includes child safety. And with our child safety grant, which is listed as CAP, C-A-P-P, that's the Child Protection Program. And what that is if an officer stops a vehicle where a child is improperly restrained, is not utilizing a booster seat or child restraint as required by law, they can attend a class in lieu of the fine, essentially, and they will get some education, a class, and they'll also receive a child protection seat. So it is a good resource. We utilize it. We log our classes. We do classes every month. Community meetings, exactly what we're doing here today, collaborating and meeting with the community to get their input. The partnerships that we've established with traffic engineering and through SPARK, and SPARK is our Strategic Planning Analysis and Research Center. These are the folks that are behind the scenes that gather all the data, analyze our calls for service, go through our accident collision reports to figure out if there's trends or common themes so we can continue to do very focused education and enforcement. And then lastly, education with vulnerable road users. And vulnerable road users we define as pedestrians, bicyclists, scooters, people who are utilizing the roadway at speeds much slower than what the traffic and passing traffic is. And so these are just some of the programs we're running with right now that we're going to continue to put out there for our community. For the bike ped and diversion program, one thing that we are doing is we've rolled that out proactively to our school resource officers so that for our youngest road users, they can get some education right out of the gate on bicyclists and pedestrians, as well as distracted driving. So as they're beginning to drive, understanding the laws pertaining to utilizing a phone, any electronic device, I think a lot of people don't even realize the state law, you cannot even hold a cell phone or electronic device in your hand. Simply holding it in your hand is a violation of that statute. Unless you are stopped at a stop sign or a red light. So that leads us to where we are today. So with traffic engineering and enforcement, we've identified our safety corridors. Now the safety corridors were 5 years worth of research that shows a consistent and correlation with serious physical injury and fatal collisions. And so the Traffic Bureau's adopted our traffic operation plan for the 2022 year, and we've called it Operation Saving Lives. Our goal is to save as many lives as possible, to change driver and pedestrian behavior. Simply that statement I made just prior, for people that don't know, simply holding an electronic device in your hand is a violation of statute. If you didn't know that, and now you do, we potentially have just changed driver behavior. So those are just some of the things we're trying to get out there with messaging and education. So the initial program corridors for the 2022 year, and this is a working document, this operations plan that we have. So right now we've identified Baseline Road between Rural Road and Country Club, which is the community in which we're engaging with now, as well as Broadway Road between Priest and Farmer, and Scottsdale Road between Curry Road and Continental Drive. So in the near future, you're going to start seeing these signs that are visible on the scenes on your screen that say safety corridor, strict enforcement, Tempe Vision Zero. Now, just to put it out there, enforcement doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to receive a citation. Enforcement means strictly we are going to stop violations of any traffic laws in that area and educate, enforce as necessary or as discretion allows for the officer. So those are just some of the things you're going to begin to see. Again, this was all statistically and driven through data. So collisions involving pedestrians and bicyclists have been on the rise, and we've had some consistency in these areas of serious physical injury and fatal collisions. Now, again, these are on the main roadways, not the neighborhood roadways. We're looking at the roads in which speed seems to be not necessarily a factor in the collisions, but the speed limits on the roads are much greater than residential areas. So what have we done? What can we continue to do? Well, the creation of Tempe City Code and the Arizona Revised Statutes for Distracted Driving, those have been enforceable now for a little over a year. They've been collecting data to see what kind of numbers we have there. I can tell you that in the month of January, just our traffic bureau alone contacted and issued 99 citations for distracted driving in these designated areas. So distracted driving is consideration of being a problem. We're doing targeted education and enforcement. And again, as I mentioned before, education for our youngest drivers for bicycle and pedestrian diversion programs. Next thing I want to talk about is what does that mean for the community? Well, you're going to potentially see an increased police presence from our traffic officers, the safety corridor signs as mentioned before, the strict enforcement. Again, violations strictly enforced does not automatically equal a citation. Community engagement, having these meetings, getting your feedback, having your observations, looking out for each other, how we can police this together as a community. For those people that aren't here that you know, educate them. If you learn something today, educate a friend, a neighbor, somebody about some different things so that everybody's on the same page and we can eliminate and bring these numbers down. And together, that's collaborative leadership. We can all achieve this goal together.
Great. So the safety corridors that Greg was talking about are one of the initiatives, one of the strategies we're trying to use to reduce those serious and fatal crashes to zero. Some other strategies that the traffic department plans to employ in the near future, I'm just going to talk through a couple of those. As Greg mentioned, we have seen quite a few pedestrian incidents in the past several years. And so one of the things we'd like to do is increase the opportunities for safe mid-block crossings. So there are several different kind of treatments we can employ for that. We have pedestrian signals already in the city. These just typical red, yellow, green signals that are activated by pedestrians. We also have some striped crossings. You can see in the middle picture, that's what we would call a high visibility crossing. So that's got kind of like a ladder. That's called sometimes a ladder or a zebra striped crossing. We have some of those already downtown. We're looking at ways that we can employ more of those. And also looking at opportunities to employ some flashing beacons. So there, you might hear them called RRFBs or rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And what that is a pedestrian pushes the button and there's no red, yellow, green stoplight, but these flashing beacons kind of go back and forth while the pedestrian's crossing to just increase the visibility of that crosswalk. Some other things we're looking at is a pilot project for speed feedback signs. So we have at least one of these already in the city, but doing it as a pilot program will allow us to better collect data for before and after and how effective these can be. We want to start by targeting areas where the 85th percentile speed is more than 10 miles per hour greater than what's posted. So that would be areas where we have a real need to slow people down. And we're looking at signs that not necessarily give how fast you're going, because that might give you the opportunity to decide that's not too fast for you. But if we just flash a sign that says you're going too fast or slow down, that might enhance our rate of driving behavior being changed by those signs. One more thing that we really like to take a look at in the near future is infill of our sidewalks. We have done a fairly good job in the city of providing sidewalks on arterials, but on local streets, these can often be routes to transit, routes to parks or schools, areas where, you know, kids might be walking without adults to go meet their friends. And we do have some gaps in our sidewalk system. So looking at a sidewalk infill project to make sure all the neighborhoods are covered. Some other things that are upcoming for traffic engineering. One kind of next step would be leading pedestrian intervals. And what that means is most of the time when the through traffic gets a green light, that's also when the pedestrians get their crossing sign. So the leading pedestrian interval would turn on the pedestrian crossing signal, the pedestrian walk sign, a few seconds before the traffic through green, and that would give pedestrians enough time to kind of establish themselves and establish their visibility in the crosswalk before any right turners get the opportunity to go. And we're looking at places where pedestrians aren't very common, so there's not every single, you know, signal cycle there's a pedestrian, so that, you know, we help increase that visibility. I mentioned the high visibility crosswalks. We do have a draft policy update to our standards for when we include those high visibility crosswalks. And we're continuing our existing initiatives like the upgrade to our lighting system, our street lighting project, our targeted education campaigns in partnership with PD, and identifying, again, in partnership with PD, additional opportunities to deploy safety corridors. And the civilian motorcycle school, I don't know if you want to talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at, as we start looking at numbers involving motorcycle collisions, we're in the infancy stages of looking at data for that. One of the things that we're exploring some other agencies participate in, a great way to engage community is a civilian motorcycle school. If we are successful in moving forward with that, what that would look like is funding from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, where we would, as a police department, our traffic bureau with our certified motorcycle safety instructors would come out and we would provide an all day, probably 8-hour, 10-hour class, lunch is included. We'd have a doctor come out from a trauma center to talk about trauma, a helmet specialist talk about selecting the right helmet, and then we would demonstrate and instruct some exercises and allow civilian motorcyclists to participate in those exercises. A great way to engage community, teach them safety things. So we are in the infancy stages of that, but Chandler does it and Peoria has a similar class. So we'd like to jump on board with something similar. So we are excited about that opportunity. And before we close tonight, I want to turn it over to Lieutenant McManus so he can offer some words as well.
Thank you, Greg. I just want to say again, just thank you all for being in attendance tonight and listening and providing your input. One thing that I just want to mention with these serious physical injury accidents and fatalities is that these are all tragic and life-changing events. Not only do they impact the families that are involved, they impact our communities and they impact the first responders that investigate these, and that includes your police and fire. So this is something that as a PD and traffic engineering and council that we are very passionate about. And it may seem like a very lofty goal to reduce serious physical injury accidents and fatalities to zero, but it's one that we want to do our best to do. We will continue to look for new ways to address things and try to think outside the box continuously to broaden our impact. And we want to continue to partner with traffic engineering, council, the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, and as well as you as the community. So just a couple things I want to reiterate that are new. The traffic safety corridors, those are a new concept that the PD and traffic engineering is working on. The speed feedback signs are a new concept for Tempe. And then that diversion program, the bicycle pedestrian diversion program, is a new concept and a new tool that we're hoping to really utilize and hopefully see a large benefit from that. And just reiterating that it's a tool to educate. We've already proactively sent it out to our youth population with our school resource officers, and it's also available once it goes live, hopefully early this month. It will be available online that you can go through that course to learn as well. And being a police officer for 15 years, I watched that. It's a series of videos. It's about 45 minutes long with some quizzes, and I definitely learned some stuff that I was unaware of. So definitely would encourage you to look into that and pass the word around. So just again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Does anyone have any questions at this point? You can unmute yourself or feel free to type it in the chat.
Laura, it looks like we have a few in the chat. Oh, no.
Uh,
There was a number there.
Daniel, would you like to speak? I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was just holding back a second. I guess based on the flyer, I thought this was going to be more addressing the drag strip on Baseline between rural and country club, and it seemed pretty bicycle and pedestrian centric. Is that the only problems you're really seeing? I mean, I see some horrific accidents at Baseline and Lakeshore, it seems like every week.
No, Daniel, thank you for the question. No, we were just trying to highlight some of the newer programs we have, obviously with Vision Zero, and having Baseline Road between Country Club and rural being one of the areas we're focused on. We're focused on all violations, speed, distracted driving, red lights, whatever that might be. We just wanted to highlight some of the new programs we've got, and a lot of those are more focused towards bicycle and pedestrians, because we've seen some consistency in fatalities involving pedestrians and bicyclists, just a different way to think outside the box. So we will still be conducting speed enforcement and other violations in those areas. So we do appreciate you asking that question.
As a follow-up, I heard Tempe was going to lower the speed limit to 40 on some streets, and I think I've already noticed that. Any thoughts of that on Baseline? It seems like it says one speed, so therefore I can go 9 miles above that applies to so many people. I get blown by when I'm doing 45, like I'm standing still.
So that's an initiative that has to be approved by council. And I think that it went to council last year and it was not approved. So I don't know where we stand as a city moving forward and bringing that to the table. I don't, Ellie, do you know anything on that side?
Well, so I can talk to that just a little bit. I think we're going to, I think we'd like to go back and look at the speeds on a quarter by quarter basis. There was some concern, I think, when it was brought forth the first time that we were trying to do something citywide. So our approach is, we've discussed, Ellie and I have discussed about going back and looking at it on a quarter basis so that we can get some data and prove the point and go forward from there. Did you want to add something?
No, just exactly what you said. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for answering the questions.
Okay, we have one in the chat from Kathleen. I'm wondering if you could possibly put the link to this presentation on the Nextdoor app. You might be more able to catch a few more people to educate on that platform. Just a thought. Kathleen, that's a great idea. And yes, we will do that. I posted a link to our webpage here in the chat. But yes, we can post the recording there as well. Thanks for that idea. Anybody else? Okay, Linda, anything regarding more traffic lights or left turn lanes or left turn signals into the lakes?
Well, I haven't seen any requests for that. I don't know if you have, Ellie, but
No.
And so traffic signals are put in, once we get a request, we do a study and they have to be warranted because everything that you put out there has a reaction and sometimes it's not the intended reaction. So we study it and see if it meets the warrants that are in the federal guidelines before we put it in. And we also have guidelines for the left turn arrows. So if you think there's a need, just let us know and we'll go out and do some counts, check the delay, and see if in fact there's a need for left turn arrows.
And in terms of letting us know, a lot of people fill out a 311 request, either by calling the phone number or online. Or I believe, Laura, there is a comment opportunity on the Vision Zero website. So that might also be a place where you could fill out a request for a study for that.
Yes, thanks for putting that out, Ellie. Linda's, I think, wanting to know a little bit more specifically about how she might request a study.
Oh, just say she'd like us to look at, you know,
Okay.
like if we can have left turn arrows at the intersection.
Yeah.
It's simple as
So-
that.
So have her email you, or would you rather she put it on the Vision Zero website?
The Vision Zero website's fine. A 311 request is fine, either by
Okay.
phone or online. They go directed to us. They'll go directly to either Kathy or I. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else out there have a question, comment? Anything they'd like to add? Well, we have lots of time left. We can hang out, but as far as our presentation, that part is over. But we'll be here for a little bit longer if you think of something or would want to make a comment at any time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.